Good morning and welcome, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you all for joining us this morning. I'm Clarissa Rodriguez, Chair of the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. Today's full board meeting is being webcast live for members of the public, so welcome. It is also facilitated by American Sign Language interpreters. Welcome, interpreters. Thank you for joining us. I now have the honor of calling the 1041st meeting of the full board to order. Madam Secretary, will you please call attendance?
Vice Chair Foster,
Here.
Board Member Higgins,
Here.
Board Member Lobin,
Here.
Board Member Williams,
Here.
Board Member Hull,
Here.
Board Member Crane,
Here.
Board Member Stasko,
Here.
Board Member Tavares,
Here.
Board Member Caginelli,
Here.
Board Member Delam,
Yeah.
Board Member Delgado,
Here.
and Board Member Perez.
Here.
Madam Chair, Board Members Hull, Tavares, Williams, and Higgins will be joining us remotely.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. Agenda item 1, approval of the February 11th, 2025 meeting minutes, board meeting minutes. You have all received a copy of the February board meeting minutes for your review, board members. Are there any questions or need for discussion? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to accept the board meeting minutes for last month?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that the minutes be accepted.
Okay, thank you,
I
Board
second.
Member Stasko. Thank you, and seconded by Board Member Delan. Thank you both. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay. Hearing none, board members, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. All opposed? No opposition. I am also a yes. That motion is passed. Thank you. Agenda item 2, Office of General Counsel's Departmental Report. Acting General Counsel, General Counsel Keith Longden will now present the Office of General Counsel's Departmental Report for February 2025. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Members of the board, the following is a statistical analysis for the month of February 2025 of the 3 divisions of the Office of Issue Resolution within the Office of General Counsel. The Adjudication Division held 17,549 hearings and resolved 11,733 cases at hearing. Held 1,349 pre-hearing conferences and finalized 2,234 Section 32 agreements. Of those, 2,021 were finalized at hearing and 213 were resolved by administrative decision. The Administrative Review Division received 920 applications in the month of February, processed 952 applications for an end-of-month inventory of 8,191 pending applications. And finally, the Legal Affairs Division received 86 applications for full board review, processed 92 applications for full board review, and had an end-of-month inventory of 202 applications. And that completes my report.
Okay, thank you. Board members, are there any questions or need for discussion? Okay, hearing none, may I please have a motion to accept the Office of General Counsel's Departmental Report?
Move to
Madam Chair-
accept.
Okay,
Board Member Lauren Logan, second motion.
thank you. That's Board Member Crane and seconded by Board Member Lobin. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, hearing no opposition, all in favor, board members, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Hearing none, I am also a yes. That motion is passed. Thank you. Item 3, license applications. Senior Attorney Benjamin Jacobs will now present the licensing applications for the prior month. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Rodriguez, Vice Chair Foster, board members and colleagues. You have before you recommendations from the assigned board panel regarding the licensing applications listed in Part 3 of today's agenda. Under Section 24A, John Iaconis, 3-year renewal. Under Section 53D, Broadspire Services Incorporated, qualifying officer Lisa Chatora, Esquire, 3-year renewal. Davies Claim Solution, Qualifying Officer Matthew Mead, Esquire, 3 years renewal, and Zurich Service Corporation's Qualifying Officer Todd Jones, Esquire, 3-year renewal. I present these recommendations to the board for your consideration.
Okay, thank you so much. Board members, are there any questions or need for discussion? Hearing none, may I please have a motion to accept the recommendations of the panels as presented?
Madam Chair, this is Board Member Cancinelli, and I move that we accept the licensing renewal applications.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Board Member Delgado, I second.
Okay, thank you so much, Board Member Delgado. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, hearing no opposition, board members, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. All opposed? Okay, I am also a yes, that motion is passed. Thank you, board members. Agenda item 4, legal appeals. Keith Longden will now present the recommendations concerning recent decisions by the Appellate Division.
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Members of the board, since the February 2025 meeting of the full board, the Appellate Division, 3rd Department has decided 5 decisions involving appeals from board decisions. Those 5 decisions are located in items 4A through 4E of this month's agenda, and it's a recommendation of the Office of General Counsel that those agenda items, those decisions in those items 4A through 4E be adopted as the decisions of the board.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Board members, may I have a motion to accept the recommendations of the Office of General Counsel?
So moved.
Yes, Madam Chair. Board Member Mark,
Thank
I move to accept the recommendations of General Counsel.
Okay, Board Member Higgins, there was already a motion, so you'll be seconding. Thank you.
Okay.
The motion was made by Board Member Perez. Thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, board members, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. Thank you. All opposed? Hearing none, I am also a yes. That motion is passed. Thank you. This month, there are no mandatory full board cases for consideration, so we'll move on to our discretionary full board cases. And I now turn this portion of the agenda over to Vice Chair Frida Foster.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. For the cases listed in item 6 on your agenda, it has been recommended that full board review be granted. Those cases are 6A, matter of Temper Production USA LLC, and 6B, matter of Vans Express Inc. I move to refer the cases back to their respective panels for further consideration.
Thank you, Vice Chair Foster. Is there a second?
Board Member Dewan, second.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Delan. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, hearing none. Board members, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. All opposed? Hearing no opposition, I am also a yes. That motion is passed. Thank you, board members. Board members, any other business?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board take special recognition of the courageous return of Board Member Lauren Loban.
Yes, I do.
I second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. You are officially recognized for your courageous return and we welcome you back. Love that so much. All right, and with that, we will lead into our guest speaker who has joined us virtually. And that is our medical director, Dr. James Tachi, who's hopefully still on, yes?
He's on the screen.
He's on. Oh, there he is. Okay, perfect. So Dr. Tachi is the medical director of the board. His focus is ensuring timely, appropriate, and high-quality care for injured workers to optimize their clinical and functional outcomes. Prior to joining the board, Dr. Tachi was a medical director and residency program director at the University of Rochester, where he still holds part-time clinical and teaching appointments. Previously, he directed occupational medicine programs and served as senior medical consultant in such industries as healthcare, technology, automotive, defense, medical devices, and pharmaceuticals. He also worked extensively with municipalities, school districts, utilities, and local police and fire departments. Dr. Tachi earned his BS in biology from Cornell University, MD with distinction from the University of Rochester, MPH from SUNY Albany, and JD magna cum laude from Syracuse University. He completed residencies in general preventative medicine and public health at the New York State Department of Health and Occupational Medicine and Harvard. Thank you and welcome so much, Dr. Tachi. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Madam Chair, for inviting me. Good to see everyone again. And thank you for inviting me to speak about this topic, which is the governor's, if we're going to have the first slide, the governor's state of the state proposals that will directly improve the workers' comp system. As part of the governor's 2025 state of the state, she proposed some key changes to expand injured workers' access to medical care and therefore improve the system for healthcare providers who treat them. Next slide, please. Agenda that we want to talk about today, first and foremost, is why is expanded access important, right? Why it's somewhat foundational, but the sooner people get their care and the better care they get, the sooner they'll get better, the sooner they'll get back up to maximum, the sooner they'll be able to return back to work. It's only appropriate for me to briefly review some of the things that we've already done to make the system easier for providers and for patients. And then I'm going to dive into the state of the state proposals, things that will make it easier for providers to participate in the system, things that will assure payment that will facilitate continuity of care, and then also improvements to our fee schedule. Next slide, please. So why is expanding access to care? How does it benefit workers? First and foremost, it expands their freedom of choice for their medical provider. In a perfect world, when someone gets hurt, they'll be able to go to their primary care provider. Their primary care provider will accept workers' compensation patients. He or she will be able to treat them. And he or she will then be able to, if they need a referral to a specialist, refer them to somebody in their known and customary referral network. And the whole thing will be just as easy as it is, when you get hurt or sick, then it's when it's not work related. So it increases the patient's choice of providers. It maintains their continuity of care, ideally with their primary care provider and with their other known providers. And just to be clear, by the way, that there's no mandates here. It's not mandatory for providers to participate. We're just making it easier for them to do so. Again, it'll make it easier for them to find specialist providers, eliminate delays in their treatment, and expedite their return to work. It will hopefully also reduce some of their travel times over long distances. Currently, 40% of injured workers have to travel outside their home county to get treatment. And for folks who live in suburban or rural counties, they travel an average of 35 miles or more to get their care. And we think that these inconveniences for the workers can be, significantly reduced. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, the focus is to increase injured workers' access to providers. A big part of that is to make the system easier for providers to use. So again, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about a few of our accomplishments already. We've been working pretty hard the past few years to make the system more user-friendly for our providers. So next slide, please. Our actions so far to increase provider participation in the comp system. First of all, there's the expanded provider law, as folks know. We've also eliminated many board-specific forms, particularly when it comes to billing. That was a huge obstacle. Providers didn't know if they were submitting the correct form. They needed separate IT systems in their offices, and and billing specialists just to bill for workers' comp, and using the wrong form, typically got the form rejected and they'd have to start the process over again. So transitioning to the CMS 1500 universal billing form was a huge facilitator for our providers. As folks know, we created an online system for the prior authorization process, as well as for the review of requests for medical billing disputes. As folks know, the prior authorization or the PAR process has significantly decreased the turnaround time for prior authorizations. And similarly, that's been the case with billing disputes as well. This is just a quick slide to indicate, the next slide, please, that the onboard modernization effort has largely just been moving from a paper process to an electronic process. And the efficiencies gained just from that are tremendous. Those are probably our single biggest efficiencies. And it, of course, warrants a shout out to our folks from innovation and ITS, et cetera, who every time we ask them to do something, they're able to do it. And the online processes are just infinitely more efficient than the paper processes were. Next slide, please. With respect to onboard, since we launched in 2022, we've been listening to feedback from providers, from payers, from patients, from attorneys, and we've made over 75 process enhancements. And when I say we, again, I'm talking about our innovation group and our ITS group. To date, well over, this slide's a little bit outdated. Today, I think it's 2.2 million PARs have been handled. So it's well over 2 million PARs that have been processed through the system. I think it's important to note that well over 90% of them are processed between the provider and the payer without ever escalating to the medical director's office. So we don't have to referee over 90% of those claims, those prior authorization requests. Fewer than 1% need hearings. And then of the prior authorization requests that do come to the MDO, 95% of medication, DME, special services, and behavioral health PARs are processed on the same day. And the remaining small percentage are processed on the next day. The remaining PAR types are processed in a matter of weeks and not months. And again, by anyone's measure, this is infinitely better than the old paper process was. Next slide, please. With respect to billing disputes, the old process, we've vastly eliminated the backlogs in the HP1 awards process. And what used to be embarrassingly probably a 1 or 2 even year process to get billing awards resolved when there was a dispute is now down to 1 to 2 months for administrative awards to be resolved, and within again 1 to 2 months, it's no longer 3 months for arbitration awards to be assigned to an arbitrator. There's then a little bit of lag time to have the arbitration process, but this is infinitely, again, faster than it used to be. We've implemented standard information requirements that are required of both parties, made it transparent to folks what they need to submit, so there's less guesswork and confusion. They're published on our website, and it just has made the process much faster. We've also updated our arbitrator list and processes. Next slide, please. Now, the main topic that I want to address with you all today, again, is the governor's proposals in the state of the state that will, again, significantly, we think, improve the workers' compensation system by increasing the number of providers, increasing patients' access to care, expediting their recovery and their full return to work. First among these, next slide, please, is the so-called universal authorization proposal. And this is, it's marked here on this slide as a game changer. This is probably one of the biggest changes to the system that has happened in decades, or maybe ever, who knows, but it's a big one. And the notion is that all eligible licensed providers, so we're not changing the provider types that can practice within the comp system. You still have to be eligible to practice within the comp system. But if you're fully licensed in New York State, And you've gone through the standard process for the state education department, and you don't have, we're going to maintain an exclusion list, right? So if you're fully licensed and you don't have any, negative, substantial negative marks against you, you will be authorized. You won't have to go through a new special authorization process to be a board provider. We think that this is a game changer. There's over 200,000 eligible healthcare providers. That's 80,000 physicians plus the other provider types who can practice within the comp system. Today, only about 10% of those are authorized to treat workers' comp patients. I would be thrilled if 200,000 of them or 199,000 of them were participating. But even if we double or tripled or quadrupled even if we got 50,000 or 100,000, that would, again, double or quadruple our current number of providers. So that would make a big impact for patients in the system. And again, it eliminates what providers have deemed a very cumbersome system and what is also a very redundant system, because it's all information that they've already provided to the state education department. The next big thing is that we've made it incredibly difficult to allow residents and fellows at training hospitals and academic medical centers to treat workers' comp patients. I won't bore you with all of the details of why it's been so difficult, but as having worked at a training institution for many years, I can assure you that it is. What the proposal will do, it will allow residents and fellows at teaching hospitals and academic medical centers to, under the supervision of a supervising physician, an attending physician, treat workers' compensation patients. And that's just like they do with regular health insurance plans, and it's just like they do with Medicare and Medicaid as well. Next slide, please. The next, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So that is what we want to do to expand the pool of providers by making it easier to enter the system. The next couple things are really geared towards greater assurances that folks are going to get paid once they provide services. And there are two proposals. One is that health insurers will pay during a controverted claim, during the pendency of that controversy. This has already been the rule per Department of Financial Services subject letter several years ago, dating back, I think, to 2006. And this would just codify that in law. That says once a workers' comp carrier has controverted a claim, the regular health insurer will start paying for it, and will continue to pay for it until that controversion is resolved. And then once it is, they can use the already existing HIMSS system to resolve between the payers, who owes who what monies based on the causal relationship of the claim. In the meantime, patients can keep on receiving care. Doctors don't have to worry about getting paid because they'll be getting paid from a source. And the large insurers can sort of battle it out in court over a causal relationship and who has to ultimately pay the medical bills. The other change, and again, this has been the law for decades with respect to indemnity cases, but the other change is that it will allow insurers can accept a claim for medical only cases without assuming liability for a period of up to 1 year. So the workers' comp carrier can continue to pay on the medical only claims for up to a year, not assuming liability. And then at the year mark, they have to cut one way or another. And if they controvert the claim, again, the healthcare carrier will start to pay, et cetera. So these two things fit nicely together. And this is not entirely different than what's already been in place for indemnity claims already. Next slide, please. So everything I've talked about, and I know I've moved through them pretty quickly. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Everything I've talked about are things that sort of build a better, more user-friendly system for healthcare providers, right? As I said, though, this is nothing about participating in the comp system is mandatory, right? And So back, a movie back in the 80s, Field of Dreams, the big line was, if you build it, they will come. And with all due respect to Kevin Costner, we're not playing baseball in an Iowa cornfield here. It's medicine and it's healthcare, et cetera. So we have to do more than just building a baseball field and a cornfield. We have to do more than just improve the system. And that is, we have to provide an incentive for providers to want to participate in the system. So, and candidly and bluntly, that means paying our providers more. We've benchmarked our workers' comp system against the other 50 states. We've benchmarked our comp system with respect to geographic characteristics against other sort of similarly situated demographic geographies in terms of incomes and cost of doing business, et cetera. And we benchmarked it against the largest of our health insurers in New York State for regular health insurance plans. And in all of those comparisons, we come up short. So over the course of the next 1 to 2 years, you will see us increasing the fee schedule in workers' comp, particularly the fee schedule for those providers who are sort of in the trenches, the non-procedural providers in clinic who are seeing patients every day, internal medicine, family medicine, perhaps cardiology, pulmonology. Those are the ones who've been sort of getting paid the least, and those are the ones who we've had the greatest difficulty or challenges in having access to for our patients. So we'll do significantly better than Medicare, and we'll bring our fee schedule up to what is on par with regular health insurance. As Clarissa said on more than one occasion, that your doctor shouldn't get paid less money if you break your arm at work than if you break your arm in your backyard. So we just want to bring the system back up to par with regular health insurance. Next slide, please. And with that, as Steve Scotty frequently says, today is better than yesterday, and tomorrow will continue to be better than today. Next slide. Thanks to everybody for giving me a few minutes of the board's time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Tachi, for that presentation. That was incredibly helpful, and a lot of exciting things happening at the board. And thank you so much for your leadership in helping us formulate all of these really exciting ideas. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, perfect. So board members, with that, may I please have a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
Madam Chair, this is Board Member Cancinelli, and I move that we have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Yeah, I second.
Okay, thank you. That was Board Member Cancinelli and Board Member Stasko with the second. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, hearing no opposition, board members all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. All opposed? Okay, see no opposition. That motion is passed. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.